Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the two pad stack pod. Wow, we're starting off strong here tonight. Um, I'm Ace, your host. Alongside me tonight, once again, is our wonderful co-host Burg. How's it going tonight, Burg?
Oh, it's going, the duels of everyday life, work, kids, getting my ass kicked in hockey. You know how it goes, man. What's up with you?
Oh, dude, just finished the Primetime Productions. Speaking of, uh, thanks again for Primetime Productions bringing us the podcast to the masses. Producing this podcast happily and respectfully in partnership with Primetime Productions. So, yeah, we just finished the Primetime Productions fantasy draft for the NHL season. We're officially into October now. So, everybody's all talking about spooky season. I'm talking about hockey season, baby. Hockey season is here. Um, we are officially 9 days away at the time of recording the Boston Bruins regular season next Wednesday. So exciting times, dude. Exciting times. I'm ready to really hit this season, hit the ground running. Me and my daughter were going to be driving down to Boston tomorrow afternoon to catch our first game at the Garden. It's a preseason
Awesome.
game, but it'll be good to go and catch a game with her again. We haven't been there at a hockey game since Game 4 against Florida, so we're definitely due. Are you going to be going to any games this year?
I'm gonna try. I'd love to take my son again. We took him not last season, the season before. I think he was still able to be a lap child at that point.
Yeah.
And he was very well behaved. We had a great time, and it was great to expose him to the atmosphere. I think he was a little overwhelmed at first when the goal horn went off and Zombie
Oh
Nation
yeah.
started blaring, all the loud noises, because you know how kids, you put on these kind of little headphones for them to protect
Mm-hmm.
their hearing. He would not keep it on. We tried so hard to keep it on him, and he wouldn't do it. But at the end of the day, he had a blast. I wouldn't do another lap child game though, because those seats at the Garden are so tight together now with all the
Oh
changes
yeah,
they've
dude.
made. Like he wanted to walk around, and like we picked end seats, to
Mm-hmm.
be able to let him walk on the stairs, but like he couldn't even stand up in front of our seat because he was whacking the people in front of us. And luckily we had some good people in front of us. They're like, oh, it's a cute little 1-year-old kid at his first game, and we'll let it go. But
Yeah.
never again will I do a lap child at a game. I will spend the extra money to get him a seat. And the problem is with that is I can really only take him to a matinee game. He's still too young to go to like a 7 o'clock game, because
Right.
by the time we get him home, it's 11 o'clock at night. And those are always the most expensive, because that's where everybody wants to take their kids. So that's part of the
Mm-hmm.
battle. We'll see how it goes this year. And I'd love to get him back into the Garden. I really would.
That's why preseason's great, especially to bring
Hmm.
kids to. You get a taste of what the real experience is, but you're not paying those through the nose prices. Got a shout out from what I've seen so far. The Boston Bruins fan base showing up pretty well in preseason
Yeah.
games. Obviously the Bees hit the ice in Philly tonight. There were like no fans in the Wells Fargo Center. Like it
And
was
they played a
empty.
lot of their pros.
Yeah, dude, they had a very veteran heavy lineup tonight, and they really outclassed the Bees. We'll touch a little bit on the game. Unfortunately, Burge was actually on the ice; he couldn't watch the game, but I was able to watch the majority of it between the fantasy draft. So I'll provide my takes on it and stuff a little later on tonight. But yeah, it was it's going to be interesting. Last year, all the games that I went to at the Garden, I was a member of the Boston Garden Society, so
Oh,
I was
nice.
up in the rafters and
Awesome
everything. I
seats
was
up
in the
there.
yeah, it was a good experience. But you know, I don't know if fans know or our listeners know this, but it's a different style of things up there. Like you pay for your membership on an
Hmm.
annual basis, and that membership enables you to purchase tickets for that area up there. So you
Hmm.
don't automatically get tickets. You just have the ability to purchase them. So not only are you paying a large sum of money to become a member up there, that doesn't come with the tickets. Like it's an additional expense. So I did some calculations and I was like, all right, I went to about 10 or 11 games plus, those tickets were either anywhere from like $70 to $110
Hmm.
each, which generally speaking, they are less than what, the normal ticket prices are for upper bowl in the balcony. But it's still between the initial investment and then purchasing the tickets, and then the fact that you're not guaranteed the tickets if you want them. Like, they can sell out and you can't get access to those tickets even though you paid for that membership. Um, it just wasn't enough for me. It didn't provide enough of a compelling like return on my investment. And then there's also the fact that in the postseason, there's no guarantee to even have access to tickets up there past the first round because the NHL media folks, they will get full dibs of that entire
Wow.
upper bowl. Yeah. So it just didn't make sense to extend it this year. So
I
it'll be interesting.
I had an experience up there. One of my friends works for the team and the ticket sales department. So a buddy of mine, pre-COVID, this was right before COVID dropped, before I had any kids. We went to a Bruins game and we met up with her and she got us up there to kind of to check it out, to see what it was like up there. And I'll be honest with you, like my buddy and I were like, we should do this. And like, is it true that like you can buy tickets to just stand up there? Like you don't need
Yeah.
to buy a seat. So like I
Yep.
enjoyed watching the game standing up there
Oh,
from
absolutely.
way
That's
better
what
than I
the
would
way
have in
I
the
preferred
balcony.
it, actually.
Yeah.
When you're up in the rafters section, I prefer the standing room tickets because you can be right up against basically the wall.
Hmm.
And they have like a standing bar right in front of you. So you
Yeah.
have a place you can put your beer, your food, and you're just basically overlooking the ice. You have a perfect sight line of things. I love don't get me wrong, dude. Like, I loved the perks of being up there. The perks of being in the Rafters Club are pretty well established. They do a good job of advertising them. You get an elevator straight up to where your
Yep.
floor is. You don't have to go up any escalators, wait in line and behind a bunch of people. The restroom lines are probably 30 times shorter.
Hmm.
So you put down too many brewskis and you got to take a leak. You don't have to time that in the middle of the game, so you don't wait in that astronomical
Yep.
line between periods. A lot of food options up there, so you're getting the same option. Much shorter lines for convenience. The bars have much shorter lines. Um, it's a great experience up there. I just didn't like the fact, like, if I could get guaranteed seats and like a season ticket package up there in the
Hmm.
Rafters Club, I'm in. And if I could, the other thing that pissed me off about it too was you pay one membership and enables you to get tickets, buy tickets for all events at the Garden,
Right.
which some people would like. Some people aren't like me and obsess over hockey and only hockey. But with the Rafters Club membership, you can buy Celtics, you can buy concerts, and you can buy Bruins. So I was like, hey, will you like cut my membership fees if you just, let me only buy Bruins tickets? Like, I don't want to pay for all the other shit. I just want to go for Bees
Right.
games. Somebody else
Right.
can have my space. No, sorry, sir. It's only one membership enables you to get all of it. I was like, well, I'm just gonna go get an 11 game plan in
Yeah.
the balcony. Like, that's what I need, and I end up paying less money for 11 games for 2 seats than my one membership.
Okay.
Plus like
Can you
10
buy more
games.
than one ticket with your membership, or do you have to buy?
So with your membership, you can buy 2 tickets.
Okay.
And you are allowed to buy 2 tickets for a game and send somebody, but they need to be they are basically acting as your representative as a member there. So anything that they do to get themselves into trouble,
Yeah, you're
like,
screwed.
yeah, your name's on that ticket. So um but yeah, they would, generally speaking, have only the seats available at first up there, and then once all the seats are sold, then they would offer those standing room only tickets. And
I
late in the season, those standing room only tickets were like $60. So
I
you could
would
get
love
into a
that.
Bees game for $60.
I love being up there because, the balcony is just too crowded for me, and especially now that, I'm sure you would take your daughter. There's a lot of yahoos that are up there in the
Mhm.
balcony, and I've had plenty of times where I've been at the Garden where people have flown down 10 rows of seats on top of me and on top of, like, my girlfriend at the time. Like, I want no part of that. Like, I wanna go and I wanna watch the game. I don't need to get into the shenanigans that goes on. I mean, I don't know how often it happens at the Garden, but you see what's going on in pro sports right now, all the videos on social media of these fans fighting each other all the time, and, like, I just wanna go and watch a game, and being up there in that, like, that in the Raptors Club, it was so peaceful, it was nice, you could actually take in the game, and again, if COVID didn't happen, my buddy didn't get, we both didn't get married and have kids. We probably would have spent the money at the time to just, screw it, let's do it. We'll get one membership, we'll get 2 tickets, or we'll get 2 memberships, have 4 tickets, and we'll split it with each other. So we can each take, our group of people to the game. I wish it was less expensive, because it was, when she told me the price of that, I was like, holy crap. Like, dude, that's a lot of money to not even be guaranteed a seat.
Yeah, I mean, I had they thankfully they offer a payment plan, so it was
Okay.
like $100 a month for like 7 months or something like that, or no, it was like for 190 for like
Yeah.
7 months. So it wasn't exorbitant, but it was still not cheap. And the fact that I didn't have guaranteed access really fucking kind of ground my gears.
Yeah.
But I will shout out their reps that are your account managers for the
Mhm.
Rafters Club. They were usually pretty accommodating as long as the demand for the seats weren't high. I had a few times where I was like, "Hey, can I buy like a couple extra seats? Like, I want to bring a couple more people with me." And they were able to look at inventory, and
Mhm.
technically your account only allows you to have 2, but they hooked me up and I was able to go and bring a bunch of people up there. And I basically was like flexing on people. I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm kind of a big deal. The Boston Garden Society. Look at all the things that I have access to up here." Like that's what happened when I got onto that elevator. Then Charlie Jacobs gets on the elevator
Yeah, I
with
saw him
me.
up there too. Yeah, I saw him up there too. I saw Brick up there and Jack up there as well. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It was a pretty cool experience, and like, those ticket reps with the team are great. Like, my friend, I'm not gonna say her name, but like, she's been great. Like, she was the one that allowed me to be able to go to, like, watch a Bruins game in a box. Like, they wanted to just sell the box out. It was like the day of, and they're like, "Hey, we're selling these tickets for $50. You could sit in a box." I'm like, "All right, we'll be there," again, before kids. But like, it
Dude,
was
I
a
want
great
to do that.
it was a great experience. And then the next day, she was able to hook me up and get me into the season ticket holder meet and greet that they had. So I got to meet all, like, Pasternak, Marchand, Krejci, Rask, all those guys that were on the team at the time. As this is a once in a lifetime thing for me. Like, I was like, I'm gonna go meet my boy Tuukka Rask here and shake his hand and ask him how his hands feeling after he caught a puck with that blocker. So like, they are
Good
great
backup
there.
goalie.
We don't want to spiral on a tangent right now, do we? No, they're great there, and I have not had nothing but positive experiences with them there. So it would be awesome if she could hook up a Garden Society membership. That would be great, but obviously that's not realistic.
Yeah, Burge's friend. If you want to hook the Two Pad Stack podcast up with a 1 game ticket for the Boston Garden Society to give away to a listener, we can talk about that.
Ooh, maybe I'll make a call. See what happens.
All right, cool. So yeah, we're heading back there. We are gonna be me and Arya are so all of my games are in this one section. Way up, I think row 14 and like 327. So we'll be up in the shit there. I hear what you're saying though about like the whole Yahoos up there, but I also kind of from a parental standpoint, I don't ever want to like shelter my kid too much.
Sure, sure.
Like I still want them to be exposed to the way that the world is. And I think the best way for that to happen, because I know in like 6-7 years, there's going to be a time where she's going to go out, maybe catch a game by herself with her friends. And I'd rather her at least know what that's like with me, where I
Be
can kind of
prepared.
protect her and shelter her a little bit. And she can hear me yelling at all the other people and starting fights.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we were up in the upper balcony down in Florida for games 3 and 4, and there were definitely some kerfuffles down there, to say the least.
Like, the
Um,
the swearing the swearing and stuff doesn't bother me. It's when they start getting physical and people start flying down the stairs on top of me. I've had that
yeah,
experience, and I was like, "Dude, that's not cool, man. Like, we're just here to watch a
yeah,
game. Like, you wanna swear and yell at the game, like, that's why we're here. Like, we're here, we're passionate
right,
fans, you can do
right.
whatever you want." But
You paid the money, dude. Yell whatever you
yeah,
want.
exactly. I'm not gonna get upset about that, and I'm not gonna get upset about people being too drunk and being idiots. But like, once you start a fight or you start flying down
When
balconies
you
and
are physically affecting me or the people that I'm with, then it
exactly.
becomes a problem. Agreed.
Yep, that's where I draw
And
the
that's
line.
why, I mean, if people cross the line, I like I said, no problem verbal. You can say whatever, just don't no hate speech. That kind of shit doesn't fly. I mean, I will say I've gone to a lot of Bruins games in the last 3 years. as much as people like to meme and joke about Boston being a racist city, I don't hear that shit, and I
I don't
haven't
either.
heard that shit. You know, I've heard like some ableist comments, but that's still just kind of very common around North America. I feel like you hear people using the R word and
Hmm.
um, other shit like that. They just need to learn. You know, they need to be exposed to people that have those disabilities and how
Exactly.
those words actually impact those people. And when they do, they'll learn and they won't use it. I used to use that language. I negatively impacted someone when I used it. I learned why it hurts them when you use that language, and I don't
Oh
do
yeah,
it anymore. It's as
absolutely.
simple as that. So, but yeah, it's been good. I'm really looking forward to getting back to the Garden tomorrow. It's going to be a busy week for me, actually. So tomorrow, bringing Aria down to the Garden. We're parking in Charlestown, doing the walk. Then we are heading back home, hour and a half drive or so. And then, do you remember what drops tomorrow, Birch? For those that paid money,
Oh yeah. Get ready for the two-pad stack club, baby.
hell yeah! So, Two Pad Stack is creating our own EA Sports NHL 24 EASHL club.
Screw you, Brett.
NHL 24 is dropping tomorrow for those that bought the X Factor edition at noon Eastern time. So by the time you're hearing this podcast, if you're listening in the morning, it's coming soon. Or if you're listening in the evening or later on this week, it's already out. And Ace has probably played a little bit of it. So keep an eye out. Depending on how exhausted I am, I may have a stream going on Tuesday evening around 10:30, 11. It won't be a long stream, but just to say, hey, look at me. I have the fucking game. I'm playing it. Um, yeah, so very excited. Keep an eye out also for some fun primetime productions content on NHL 24.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like there's going to be 3 or 4 clubs made, and it wouldn't surprise me to see some informal tournaments or so being organized. You'll see the OB crew, definitely the Something's Bruin crew. You'll
Us.
see us. I think Davis is talking about putting together Drop the Mitts podcast team.
Oh.
So that'll be the 4th entrant into the NHL 24 world. And now that Brett has a modern console,
Finally.
we're not going to be segmented into 2 different platforms. So
No
it's
more
exciting.
sinking. No more sinking.
Oh my god, dude! You just see the ice surface for like 45
It's
seconds
like,
while you wait for the game to load.
dude. It's good. It's good he finally joined the 21st century, and finally got himself an up-to-date console, so
Yeah,
we don't
maybe
have to
he'll
deal
pay
with
me
that.
for it at some point. I'm
Yeah.
waiting for that.
I don't know if you'll see that.
He's gonna try paying me in Canadian dollars and be like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
No, and then he's gonna be like, "Yeah, but I scored on Jordan Bennington."
Oh man. Ugh. If I have to hear that again, man.
Did you know he's from London?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I hear it all the time.
Um, what are you looking forward most to in 24?
I'm looking forward to just getting back into it. Like when we started this podcast was my first endeavor into 23. I hadn't really gotten into playing NHL 23. I've played, 20, 21, but never really got into it this year because the game mode's like I'm not a big hut guy. I'm not a big pay to win or pay to be able to be good kind of guy. I did that in MUT a couple of years and wasted a bunch of money. And I'm just over that at this point. So in the franchise mode, like I like playing franchise mode, but I don't have time to play 82 games like all the
Right.
time anymore. I don't like simming games. I like being able to play it. And so I've kind of replaced franchise mode on NHL 24 with the sim hockey leagues that I've been a part of for 5 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really have time to invest in that. But now that there's like a group of us that like I've linked up with you guys to be able to play club, like I'm all in. I've have a
Yeah.
blast playing with you guys, and I'm looking forward to actually getting into these tournaments and the amount of shit talking that we're going to do to each other. I cannot wait. I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And I think what we should do is when we have these inner pod battles, we have one Xbox or EA party beforehand where both teams are in the lobby together. So you can hear the chirping, kind of like when you're just skating out for warm-ups
Oh yeah.
and you just shit talk the other team before the puck drops. And then when it starts, separate them. So you're just talking to your own teammates. You don't have to hear all that other crap. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
I'm gonna go
Yeah,
Hanson brothers on Brett. Hanson brothers from
yeah,
Slapshot going over the blue line. You come near me, I'm gonna knock you out.
I swear to God, like, because I'm probably playing a lot of goalie in 24. If you make me get a million fucking penalty shots against me, I'm gonna have a hard time with you.
Hey, I've gotten better.
He's still a goon.
I'm still a goon, and I like hitting people, but I've gotten better at timing my hits and being smarter, and I've gotten better at the poke check. Like I said, this was my first dive into NHL
I'm only
23.
slightly less like Zach Ronaldo now.
Exactly. I'm more like a Brad Marchand now. You know, I put the puck in the net. I'm a little bit of a goon. I like tomahawking people. You know how it goes.
You're a leader. You got the C on your chest. You're like Brad Marchand.
I better get the A on the two-pad stack pot on the two-pad stack club.
Speaking, no, you're gonna get the C. Speaking of, we have some questions from the community that have come in on Twitter, on X. So first things first, from Bird. He says lefty goalies are demons. God's mistakes. Not a question, just talking points. What is your opinion on lefty goalies, and are they demons?
A little bit. You don't see too many of them out there, and when you do see one, it looks kind of weird. It's like playing the position.
Yeah, like mind
opposite.
fucks you a little bit.
Yeah. And you say what you want, but like when you're going against a lefty goalie, you got to change the way that you shoot on the guy. You're coming in, like it changes your entire mindset. Like you're so used to shooting on a guy with his blocker in his right hand, and his catcher in his left hand. You're so used to it because that's all you see 90% of the time. And then all of a sudden you get a curveball, like a guy like Brendan Bussi. You get a guy out there with his catcher in his right hand. I have, I'm one of those people I'm a lefty, shooting the puck. I throw righty. So I'm kind of like, I do a little bit of both. I don't know how people can play goalie with the right hand. It's just completely opposite to me. I could never do it. I'd say there's a little bit something odd about it, but like, if you can do it, it's awesome because it's somebody that, it's a wrinkle that could be thrown into a matchup, especially like a high level for guys that are out there shooting on a guy that catches with his left 90% of the time again. And then all of a sudden you have to completely change how you play the game and how you attack that kind of goalie. So it's a little bit of a wrinkle. So it's kind of cool to see that, but at the same time, it's a little odd when you do encounter that. Like I play men's league. I don't think I've ever encountered a lefty goalie. I don't think I've ever encountered that. And everybody catches with their left hand. I mean, for me, it's natural because when I skate out, I shoot the puck lefty. So like me being a catch with the left kind of guy, I can shoot the puck a lot easier now than I could when I was younger because I finally got a stick that works. I blame it on the stick, but now I'm out here getting assists in men's league after sitting out for 4 months. So I'll toot my own horn on that.
Yeah, we saw the film.
All over Twitter.
The game that Bussy played in the preseason, he was up against the goalie on the other side. That was also a right catch. And I thought like the world was about to implode because there were two of them on the ice at the same time.
Was it the Rangers? That was a Rangers game, right? Yeah.
Oh, Louis Domingue.
Oh, yeah. Louis Domingue.
Yeah, Domingue was on the other side. And I was like, oh my God, my brain's all sorts of fucked looking at these two goalies with the right catch. But I mean, I think you're right. Like the whole left catching thing, it's just kind of natural. I mean, you think of all the righties in baseball, right? They all are catching with their left glove. I think for the most part, I'm not an MLB guy, but I mean, in youth baseball, the kids that I saw playing when I was involved in youth sports, that's what you see. There's some people that are ambidextrous, kind of like what you were alluding to, Burge. Some people that right left but shoot right, but it's just the catching right is so weird, dude.
People, it's funny. You bring that up because I was at men's league tonight. And we were talking about golf. Okay, how many lefty golfers do you see out there? There's not many of them. There's some pretty prominent guys that are lefties, like Phil Mickelson, Bubba Watson, but like you don't see many of them at the pro level. I'm a lefty golfer. I'm one of those weird dudes that's a lefty golfer, and everybody gives me shit all the time because like, how do you hit the ball lefty? I mean, I still send it to the left. I still shoot it off to the left because I suck at golf, but like everybody always says it. And playing like with friends and stuff, I have plenty of friends that are lefty golfers, and people always say it's so weird. How do you everybody? And it used to be very difficult to find lefty golf clubs when you were out there playing. I actually had to have a friend who worked at the golf shop hook me up with my set because I couldn't find like a good set. So it's kind of the same thing. Like lefty golfers are demons. If you want to play it like that, it's kind of the same thing. You're just the oddball of the group.
Yeah. But it's definitely interesting to see them just able to mirror it, and what's usually a blocker side shot is a glove suddenly. Anyways, we can move on. We're rambling. From Grace,
Oh boy.
will Burge ever accept Captain Brad Marchand? Will you?
I don't have a choice. He's the captain. I have to accept it. Will I be critical of him at times when he deserves his criticism? Yes. Like the other night when he goes up, he's obviously tied up with, think it was Farabee when they played the Flyers at the Garden. He was obviously tied up with him. And, there's a good battle going on between those two guys that are NHL players. And he still comes over the top with a tomahawk chop on his back. I'm like, dude, you can't be doing that. Like, I get playing with an edge. Like, and that's where Brad Marchand excels. Okay. He plays with that edge as a player. I just don't like seeing my captain doing that. Because like in an NHL game, like in a regular season game, I don't even recall if he was penalized for that. But like in a regular season game, that's going to be penalized, and he could look at a suspension for something like that. I don't want my captain getting suspended, especially with his history. So I want him to, and it's kind of a catch-22 here, because for Brad Marchand to be the player that he is, he needs to play with that kind of edge, and I don't want to see him lose that. And he has done a good. I will say he has done a really good job over the last couple of years, kind of cleaning up what he used to do with all the slew footing he used to do and all that. He has cleaned that up, so I will give him that, as he's excelled to the being a leadership in that locker room. I just don't want to see my captain suspended for something stupid in the regular season. So the answer is yes. I have no choice to accept him. I will accept it, but I will be critical of him, and I will not. And you come at me on Twitter all you want, but I'm going to be critical of him throughout the year, because especially this year when they're in a team with a bunch of new faces. Granted, they are veterans, but a bunch of new faces, and a team going through a transition retool kind of year that they're expected to have. I don't want to see that. He needs to be on the ice. He needs to not be sitting in the penalty box. He needs to be on the ice, and he can't be sitting on the ninth floor. So the answer is yes. I will accept it. I don't have a choice to accept it, but I'm not gonna be quiet about it when I see him do something stupid.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that I'm very tired of seeing Brad do rat shit. Like he hasn't done it as much in the last 3 seasons, and I had been very vocal about that I think he has changed his game. But when he gets his jimmies rustled, he is prone to make poor choices. And he doesn't have his binky here anymore to reel him in. Bergeron was always that security blanket for him. Like,
Yep.
Brad is fuming on the bench. Patrice is right next to him saying, "Hey, knock this shit off. You're fine." Like, people are going to try to get under your skin because they know that they can piss you off. He doesn't have that anymore.
He's that guy now.
He's
supposed to be that guy.
And I'm not saying he needs to be Patrice Bergeron or even replicate his leadership style.
Right.
Brad can be his own leader, but he needs to be a leader. And part of that is, if you're going to answer in kind to some rough stuff when you're being held up and the ref isn't calling shit, don't use your stick. Like, shove the guy in the face, push him down to the ground.
Face wash him.
Yeah, like, just use your truculence. You don't need to swing your stick, because you're going to get caught. You're lucky you didn't get caught. It's a preseason game, whatever. Like, make better choices, Brad. The team's looking up to you now, and we need you to do that. So it's a little concerning to me that we're already having this discussion before the season's even started. But hey, Captain Brad Marchand, got to sell those jerseys.
And I don't even want him to not be like a rat kind of player. I want him to do that. I want him to be the player that has made him such a great player in the league. He needs to do that to be as effective as Brad Marchand is. Like, obviously he can score and he can, be a playmaker, but that edge needs to be there, but it needs to be controlled.
Yeah, agreed. All right, moving on from the C. From Bobby Brewski. Would you like to see the NHL do something fun like Andy's Roomcast that we saw this past Sunday in the NFL? If so, which two teams would you like to see broadcasted in a cool environment? So the Bruins, I mean not the Bruins, the NHL have done something like this already once. They did the Big City Greens game, which was Washington at New York. So that was kind of cool. They used that player tracking technology similar to what you saw in the Toy Story game, and you saw the characters from that obscure cartoon that even my kids don't enjoy skating around on the ice, and they had like the main characters playing in the position of the goaltenders and stuff. And it was really cool to be able to see them taking that player tracking data and putting it on an overlay over some animation. And I think it's a lot of fun. I think that they probably learned a lot from that experience where there were maybe some glitches and stuff that just looked weird. The delay was a little noticeable compared to the actual on ice broadcast as well. Um, so I think they can do a better job, but they have already done it once. And it's clear that Disney is trying to put their IPs overlaid with the professional sports
Hmm.
broadcasts. And obviously, a lot of people were talking about it. It's going to continue to happen. I'd love to see another one. And selfishly, I'll hand it over to you in a moment, Burge. But selfishly, I'd like to see the bees involved,
Hmm.
just because there's a rooting stake for me in that. Um, I think I'd probably lose my patience like halfway through the first period and turn on the regular game because I would want to see some of the actual details of the game. But why not do a bees another a major American market because Disney won't do it without that. So probably maybe Bruins Rangers, Bruins Islanders. I
Hmm.
think something like that would probably be a great fit for that.
So I'm not of the one that I want to see the Bruins be a part of it simply for what you just said. When I watch a Bruins game, I want to watch the game. And being a dad of three young boys, I want my kids to enjoy hockey. And I think my kid's been on a massive Toy Story kick for the last 3 months, since my twins were born. I would love to see the NHL do something like that. Could you imagine seeing like Woody's arms flailing when he gets decked in the corner? Like, could you imagine seeing something like that? Like something, or at least like an animation like that. My kid would die for something like that. So while I'm hesitant about wanting to see the Bruins in it because like I want to watch the Bruins game, I want to watch a hockey game. If it's like another team like the NFL did, I think it was Jacksonville and Atlanta, like two teams I could care less about. And if I was home on Sunday, that game would have been on my TV for my son to watch because he would have been all over that. My wife and I had actually talked about watching that game, but obviously we had other plans. We ended up going to a fair. But seeing something like that for hockey, I think would be great to expose my kids to, and I think that's the ultimate goal is to market it towards the younger generation. I'll give some like us hockey parents, hey, let's watch this hockey game with your favorite movies characters playing the game, in your favorite in their in like a bedroom or something. I think it would be great to see that. And if you look at some of the clips that the NFL did for their performance, like if you watch, like there was one play, I think it was a clip on Twitter where Trevor Lawrence scrambled for 30 yards, and they played them side by side, and it was like unbelievably accurate with where it went, with the play, where the play went. It was I was my mind was blown because I had low expectations for it, and seeing that I was like, I'd love to see that transition to hockey and be a good product like that, and especially gearing it towards like kids characters. I mean, Disney owns ESPN, so ESPN obviously we know has the NHL TV contract with TNT. It's a perfect opportunity for them to put one of their movies into the game, into a hockey game, and just market it towards the younger generation. Because I can guarantee you, I'm not the only hockey parent that would love to see something like that and introduce it to my kids to kind of, hey, this is hockey. This would be great to see. Watch the game. You could see your favorite characters playing hockey. I think it would be unbelievable to see that.
Yeah, dude, I agree, and it's a great way to bridge. the streaming platforms that are really popular now today, because when they did that big city greens game in the NHL, that wasn't just on the traditional networks where you watch hockey. That was available on Disney Plus, where you're not going to find a lot of sport. So it's a great way to open up the sport and the brand to a lot of people that maybe wouldn't be exposed to it otherwise. And all they need to do is be scrolling through Disney Plus, see that hockey game, be like, oh, what is this? Wow, okay, this is really cool.
Mhm.
I want to learn more about this. And then bam, you've got somebody that maybe is hooked. And that's really fantastic. Um, yeah, I would love to see more of it. Just don't make it the only thing I can see. Let me have the actual on ice view as well, and I won't complain.
Hey, I'll sit with that on the TV, and I'll have the actual on ice view on my trusty little mobile device right here, and watch the game off that. If it gets my kid involved, I'm happy.
Love it. Absolutely, I agree. Final listener request. Question from Audi Fan 12. Burge, I'll throw it at you first. Is it imminent that a goalie is traded before the deadline? I think he means a Bruins goalie. And do you think one goalie will play multiple games during the season instead of switching every other? So I think he's suggesting like going on like a 4 or 5 game run or a 1A, 1B type thing that we've had in the past.
I would like to see it. I would like to see the Bruins kind of maybe out of the gate, kind of alternate starts, and as one maybe starts to play even a smidge better than the other, give him multiple starts in a row. Like I think we saw last year that the kind of the basically splitting 50-50 throughout the year kind of failed the team in the playoffs. And again, I understand a lot of people's takes on wanting to keep the rotation going through the playoffs. It's traditionally not been done, and it's not something I care to see. I guess you'd call me an old school mind when it comes to this. I want to see my goalie, my number one goalie. I want to ride him as far as he can until he can't do it anymore, and then I'm making the switch. Obviously, we saw the Bruins last year. They made the switch maybe a little late at the time, given Olmark's injury and all that. So I want to see my guy play until he can't, and then go to the next guy. He plays until he can't in the playoffs. So in order to prepare for that kind of grueling, task on the body, on the mind for a goaltender, I want to see that tested in the regular season. It's the perfect time to test something like that. Give Linus Olmark 4 games in a row, 5 games in a row. If it's working, if Olmark is in game 2 and he flounders, then no, you abandon it at that point and you go back to your 1B and Swayman. I think we saw that with Tuukka Rask and Jarl Halak, in their last years here. Now, could you see a situation where you get 2-1, 3-1, 2-1, that kind of split? I'm on board with that. I'm on board with that because it's also giving your number one a chance to rest. I think it's all going to dictate on the play of the two goalies going into the season and how it starts, and then you're going to kind of see like you're going to make a choice. Like I'm a big proponent. I wanted Swayman traded this offseason. I have made no secret about it, but given that they didn't trade him, he better take the job this year. He better be able to, seize the job from Linus Olmark. I've been waiting to see that. We didn't see it last year. We didn't see it the year before. So I'm waiting to see where he seizes that number one job moving forward. In terms of getting traded, I mean, I wouldn't say it's imminent. I think it's going to dictate how the team is doing and how their reps are being split. If the team's out of contention, pretty much a long shot to be a real contender, then I think you have to explore it because your team is weak in other spots, and there's no point in putting one of your best assets on the bench every night.
Yeah, this team is like 10 points out of the playoff picture at the deadline. I don't think anything's off the table other than
Mm-hmm.
like Charlie McAvoy, David Pasternak.
And
Like,
Marchand, not going to trade the captain.
I wouldn't be surprised if they are that far out. That's shrewd business. You got to do what you got to do.
I'll
But the
take my
guys that are
victory
under
lap if that happens.
contract, yeah, if they're under contract for a long time and they're core young members of the team, you're not going to move them because they would be here, for next year or the following year when they're looking to potentially contend again. I don't think the Bruins are going to be in that position. I could be wrong. You never know what's going to happen.
I
But
agree.
yeah, if they are outside of that playoff picture, I think it would be wise of them to trade one of the goalies to recoup a first round pick because we don't have one.
Hmm.
And either one of these goaltenders should absolutely fetch a first round pick. To address your question specifically from my perspective, I have a little bit of a differing opinion than Burge. Um, your first part of the question, no, there's no trade that's imminent. Um, it's all highly situational. Depends on where we're at, like we've said. And do you think one goalie will play multiple games during the season instead of switching every other? I honestly think that what they had going works. The only reason why it didn't in the postseason is because they stopped doing what they had going that was working. We've talked about this on previous episodes. It's, I think it's idiotic to think that when you suddenly change something and you for some reason expect a similar result to what you were doing before when it was so drastically different. Like, just because it's the postseason, and I know this is something that goalie Bob just believes in, is riding one goalie in the postseason. We didn't ride a goalie at all during the year, and it worked immensely. Both goalies were competing, they were pressuring each other, they were thriving, they were hugging, everything was wonderful. Sunshine, rainbows, all that good shit. And then when the postseason shows up and suddenly the pressure's on, we don't continue that process. We don't continue that 1A, 1B. We decide to crown one guy the 1A, or sorry, the bona fide number one, and they give him that leash to run with. Like, no shit, it didn't work out. You didn't do this at all throughout the year. Now, Burge, he's saying we should do that in the year so they have the, you know, experience. They've done it. They can handle it. I think that Linus Allmark has never been that guy. He's never been able to do that for extended periods of time. And that's why he wore down in Buffalo. Granted, completely different system in front of him. That was a really garbage team in Buffalo.
Hmm.
But the stats are there and numbers don't lie. So throw a curveball. Like, what, how can it be? There's not going to be a bigger obstacle for an opposition playoff matchup than you have to plan for two fucking goalies. When you have
Good
one
point.
goalie, you can plan, you can do your scouting report. This is where this goalie's weaknesses are. This is where we can make that harder for the opposition. Make that scouting staff have to prep for, okay, game one, we're probably facing Linus. Brief the shooters. These are his tendencies. Game two, completely different. Everything that you had in your fucking head, Swayman's in. You got to do something else. Like, that is not a handicap. That is a perk that you have on this roster.
I
And
mean, sorry, go ahead.
no, you're good. Go ahead, jump in.
I was just gonna say, like, the reason it failed, like you said last year, was because they didn't test it, and the reason why I want them to test it because I want to see if that they can actually do it. And there's something to be said about a goalie getting hot and riding that goalie as long as you can. So I agree on your point with, you got one goalie, okay, now you got to see the next goalie. But if you see that all year, if you see it all year as a team that's scouting, you're going to be able to see, okay, we know this is his weakness, this is his weakness, and we can attack both of these guys. And you can plan for that. Now, it may work. Like I said, it's never really been tested, that kind of tandem. But at the same time, the Bruins have never really tested their goalies to play multiple game stretches at a time. And to be honest with you, I want to see that, because what if one of them gets hurt in the playoffs, early on in the playoffs? Then you have to ride one of them. So that's kind of where I sit on it. Why I'm saying, you have 82 games in the regular season. Give these goalies their time to try to get hot, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I don't ultimately disagree, but I do think that they had a fantastic thing going on last year, and they stopped for one reason or another,
Hmm.
and that ultimately led to the downfall. Now, to your point, if Swayman is going to grab the reins on this and take this number one job, he needs to do it because he's had
Hmm.
multiple chances in the postseason to say, hey, the other guy faltered. I'm your guy. You put me in a must-win situation. You see what guy, and once again, I don't want to bring this guy's fucking name up all the time, but Jordan Binnington was a castaway. And this guy was thrown into the net in St. Louis, and he went on an absolute fucking tear, and he won the games that he probably shouldn't have won. All the way up to game 7 in the fucking cup final. This guy won the games that he wasn't supposed to win. And that goes to your point, Burge. You know, these goalies can go on a fucking heater. And I don't think any of our goalies can really do that because they aren't really exposed to that in the regular season. I
Exactly.
would like to see it though. I would like to see them say, "Hey, we're not like other teams. Let's throw a curveball at them. Here's one goalie, one game. Here's the other goalie that you're never gonna know until you do it." And the way that we're doing it right now isn't working in the postseason. It hasn't worked the last 3 seasons in the postseason. It's
I
time to change it up.
I was a proponent of riding Linus Ullmark last year. I was big on that, but like to your point, obviously hindsight's 2020. Looking back on it, they should have kept what they had, and maybe they got lost in chasing records and that whole thing. But at the end of the day, you do want to stick with what works. And I was against this wholeheartedly in the playoffs last year. But hindsight, they probably should have done that. Linus Ullmark probably doesn't get hurt in that situation, and they probably beat the Florida Panthers and kind of continue on their roll. But to your point about Jordan Binnington, all you have to do is look at the last year. Look at Aiden Hill. He was like the 4th or 5th goalie on the depth chart for the Vegas Golden Knights going into the playoffs, and he ended up getting in. He got a little bit hot, and obviously he had a really good team and coach, in front of him, and lo and behold, look what happens. I mean, you kind of see it happen almost every year. And I'm not saying that every year a cup winning goalie is one of those guys that kind of just gets hot and goes, but there's always one guy that comes in and is able to go on a bit of a run. And that's really why I want to see the Bruins test that even early in the season. Just see if it could work. And then if it's not working, go back to what works. So that's again, that's where I sit on it. I really want to see them test this theory come even October, November, test it. Obviously everybody's getting their legs together and getting into the feel and the groove of a grueling regular season where you play 82 games over the course of, however many months. But test those theories early when they're healthy, see where it goes. And then if, Linus Ullmark gets hurt again after 3 starts, maybe you pull it back a little bit, give Swayman a chance, give him
Yeah.
those 3 games, and then kind of see what happens. I really want to just see them test the theory in the regular season when they can afford to drop a game or 2 here and there.
Agreed. So before we wrap, we've got 12 minutes left here in our recording today. We're gonna keep it about an hour today. It's getting late at night here for us, so apologies for maybe the shorter episode than maybe what you were expecting. Just want to kind of regroup and recap a little bit on the last 2 preseason games. Bruins played the Flyers once at home, once on the road. The game that was Friday, Pasta was back in his first game of the preseason, and it looks like the Noodle Man hasn't missed a beat. So he hit the net twice for the Bees, made it look easy. Saw a little bit of a different wrinkle to the team with Patrice Bergeron not being on the roster. Zaka found himself in the slot in the bumper, and he is a different handedness than Patrice. So it's been well documented by a good piece by Fluto Shinzawa on The Athletic, where he was talking about how that changes up, the passing options for the Bruins power play. Probably is going to mean some trickle-down effects to David Pastrnak on the power play. A lot less one-timer options, but it means he's probably going to have the puck on his stick even more. So a few more wrist shots, snapshots with traffic. It'll be interesting to see how that impacts him. But the Bruins end up falling in that preseason game. I'm not too concerned about the results. I'm really just kind of looking at things with a macro lens on the players that are trying to compete and make a roster spot for themselves. But Pasta looked good. Danton Heinen hit the net, which may have put the nail in the coffin for Alex Chason, who is released from his PTO. Heinen, I just think, has looked better than Chason in every facet of the game,
Mm-hmm.
in the defensive zone, in the neutral zone, in the offensive zone. He just kind of seemed to have it all put together well. He looks like a more complete product than the Danton Heinen that was here before we let him go. So it'll be interesting to see how they make the money work if they're able to bring him in. I've seen a lot of things that state that it's not possible unless a trade or a waive of a player that isn't really considered to be, one of those candidates before is done. So I hope to see him. I have him penciled in on my third line. But yeah, it was a good game for those two players. The defense looked meh. Goaltending was meh. But
Everybody on Twitter crucifying Linus Olmark for a preseason game.
yeah, what a surprise. So let's pivot here to the game that occurred tonight. Bruins hit the road with a ragtag group, some NHL regulars, but a lot of players that are trying to make an impression here. Some of those players that were put in the, I don't want to say amateur, but the B group by Coach Jim Montgomery, who separated out his remaining players into a veteran group, which are all the one-way contracts and the big boys. And they put a lot of those guys that I don't want to call her like the Providence-bound group, but a lot of those players that are on the bubble or definitely aren't guaranteed a spot all together in their own group. And it seemed like he was trying to send a message like, hey, as you're playing right now, this is where you belong. Show me otherwise. Make me
Mm-hmm.
think that you need to be in the other group. Or alternatively, for the A group, like, you better fucking keep up with these other guys or I'm going to send you with the other group. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So,
Yep.
Bruins ended up falling tonight to the Flyers. They didn't look good. They did not generate anything 5-on-5. Special teams looked good. Swayman played pretty well back there. Gave up one squeaker I would have liked to have back, but he made a lot of saves that he probably shouldn't have as well. So I can't complain too much. Bruins were outshot 24-14. So when you only get 14 shots on goal with a power play goal, like, yeah, not great. Really wasn't impressed tonight with Richard. I think that kid can skate like 200 miles an hour. He's got like rocket skates, but his brain doesn't keep up with his feet. Made a lot of poor decisions with the puck. Lysell needs to have another season in Providence. He's making bonehead mistakes too. Luckily, he looks more like a man. I think he's got a bigger frame. He's able to not fly off hits, but he's still trying to play that finesse game and make plays that aren't there. And you can't do that against NHL quality opposition. And the Flyers were icing a very veteran heavy lineup this game, preparing for their season. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, all things said, I I really loved what Matt Poitras did tonight, and I think he was probably, according to some analytics that I posted and I found online, the game score. Whoever does that, I really should know this, so I can shout them out. But he was the best skater on the ice for the Bruins tonight, and Jim Montgomery in the post game interview, he was out saying, "I thought that Matthew was excellent." He didn't wait for the game to come to him. He brought the game to the game. He wasn't panicking with the puck. He knew what he was wanting to do with the puck before he even had it. He made the right plays. He's like, I can't say too many good things because we only had 14 shots on goal. We barely had the puck 5-on-5. So it was hard to really get a good grasp on a lot of these bubble guys. But uh, I mean, I would say Patois, from what I watched, was a more effective centerman than Charlie Coyle was tonight.
I feel like over the course of the preseason, that kid has earned at least a shot in the regular season before they have to make a decision to either burn his year or send him back to juniors. I feel like he's done enough to be able to say, hey, we're going to roll you out in the first couple of games of the regular season, see where we're at, and we'll go from there. If he continues to do what he's been doing, dude, play the kids. This is a retool year. I get the whole don't burn a year of that cheap contract for him. But if he's playing at a pro level, at least give him a look against legitimate NHL competition, uh, in the regular season. And I think based on what I've seen and the little bit of preseason that I've watched and the highlights that I've been able to take in over the course of the last week, he's earned his shot to at least get a look in the regular season.
Dude, I'd go even further than that. So I'm ready to give him top 6 minutes to start the season. Like, I am ready to go. So I know I mentioned I want to sign Heinen. Probably my 13th forward right now, if we sign him. And that's a good thing to have, a player like that as your 13th
Yeah.
forward. So if we are to sign Matt Patois, I mean, he's already signed. I mean, give him the job and let him play in the regular season. I want a top line of Brad Marchand, Matt Patois, Jake DeBrusk.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be fantastic for the kid. And let's see if he can handle it against NHL quality opposition. He's looked good in the preseason. He's been playing well with good quality wingers. Let's see it, dude. Like, who are we to say no just because we think it's too early? Like, if he is playing like he can play with these guys and playing at an NHL level, fucking play him. I would absolutely take a number one center on a ELC contract. Yes, all day. So give him the chance.
Absolutely. And, you also got to look at it in terms of his development. What more is he going to be able to, how much more is he going to be able to develop at the junior level? I think he's already proven the fact that he can play at that level, and, he can't go to Providence. So it's one or the other. And if he is demonstrated, which I think he has, that he can play here, and he's going to be playing with a couple of good wingers. He's going to play with the captain and then play with, Jake DeBrusk, who is no slouch himself. He's a very solid player for this team, albeit he can be streaky. But let's see what he can do. You have, I think it's 9 games to make the decision. See what it looks like for 3, 4, 5 games, and then be like, maybe he does need a little bit more time, or this kid is legit. He's earned his spot. Give him the minutes. We're in a transit again. You may not call it a transition year, but it is a bit of a transition, just given the core and given what you've lost over the past few years. Why not take a chance? See what he's got. And again, he's got 3 years, so you lose one of the years in a transition year. And what's the worst that happens out of that? I don't feel like he's going to take a step back in his development because he's playing at the pro level. It's kind of one of those things where if he's got it, he's got it. Let him go. But going back to juniors is not going to do him any good.
Agreed. And like, let's just see how it goes. Let's throw him out there at this point. Like, and also I have to shout out Dom Tiano, who early in the summer was like, this is the kid that I have as my dark horse to make the team out of camp. And he obviously has his finger on the pulse of the OHL. He's done a lot of scouting. He's got a great website. I think it's Dom on Hockey or something like that. But yeah, he was the first one I saw anywhere that was like, look out for this Poitras kid. And sure enough, man, he's my pick to make it out of camp here in the top 6 spot down the middle and take advantage of those voids left by Bergeron and Krejci. So yeah, I've got Marchand, Poitras. I'm gonna say his name like 8 different times until I figure this out. Marchand, Poitras, DeBrusk. Second line of Zacha, Coyle, Pasternak. Third line of Van Riemsdyk, Geeky, Frederick. Fourth line of Lucic, Beecher, Lauko, extra forward Heinen.
I don't hate that. I like to think I like to think that Heinen's going to crack the lineup a little bit more than being a 13th forward. That's just me. I've always liked what the kid has brought here, even when he was here prior to being shipped out. I really like what he brings to the table. I think he got a bad rap amongst the fan base here when he was here. Everybody would always complain about him, saying he sucks and this and that. But he's left, and he's looked the part of a kind of that. I don't want to say middle 6 because I don't think he can play in the top 2 lines. But like, if he needed to slide up in certain situations to play on the second line, I feel like he can do it. And I felt like he could do it when he was here. And I still feel like you said, I agree with what you said about him being a more complete player here now than he was when we traded him away. I was stunned that he didn't get a contract out of free agency. So I think this could be a diamond find for Don Sweeney to bring him in here on a PTO. Obviously, he's got the relationship with Jim Montgomery from his time at Denver. So I think it's a match made in heaven. I think they'd be stupid not to sign him. And I get the money and the cap has to play a factor in that, but it screams a fit to me.
Yeah, I think they just need to make the logistics work, and that's why they have Evan Gold, GM of the Providence Bruins, who does his magic with the numbers. So I'm sure there will be some sort of salary cap money laundering going on to make it work if they do that. But I would love to see Danton Heinen. I think I agree with you. The best utilization for Danton Heinen is in a third line role, third line wing, and PK. He can eat up some of those important minutes that won't need a Van Riemsdyk or somebody that can barely skate out there. So it'll be interesting to see how things go. We'll know more by the time we talk to you guys again next time. Definitely appreciate everybody that tuned in. Keep an eye out for news about our NHL 24 streams. But yeah, any closing thoughts, Burge?
No, I'm looking forward to regular season hockey in 9 days. I'm very excited to watch some real hockey. Obviously, we know the preseason's kind of one of those things that's kind of, you watch it if you're deep into it and you really want to see some of these kids. Obviously, I haven't been able to tune into much of it, but really excited for real hockey. I'm very excited to get into the Two-Pad Stack Club on NHL 24. So I'm excited to get into streaming that with you here in the next week or so. So yeah, looking forward to it and looking forward to next week.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody once again for listening, and we will catch y'all next week.
All right. Have a good week.
Peace.